There are just 2 weeks before Iraqi voters go to the polls.
Squad leader, maintaining your security. I need you to bring your devil dogs over here.
Because of the violence, the interim government has canceled the elections in the province known as the Triangle of Death.
They're not going to allow us to hold elections.
When Colonel Smith announced that in a staff meeting, you could literally hear the wind go out of the sails of the Marines and the officers. We've lost some individuals. They've given their lives for this. We cannot let this happen.
It was pretty upsetting because everybody had worked so hard to make this possible, put in all the blood, sweat, and tears.
Colonels Ron Johnson and Mark Smith go to Baghdad hoping to change the government's decision.
We were able to show that we had control of the area of operation, not the criminals and insurgents.
We did receive approval to conduct elections. The caveat was we would have to establish the polling sites.
We looked for schools both in the town itself and in the surrounding countryside to identify the best locations.
It was happening. You could feel it. We had the momentum.
Finally, some 3 months after the Marines arrived in the Triangle of Death, Election Day comes.
It was a beautiful day. You know, sun came up, crisp blue skies.
We didn't know what to expect.
We thought the insurgents were going to come out in force and do everything they could to disrupt the voting.
Based on intelligence reports, they're especially concerned about suicide bombers driving into the crowds at several of the polls.
The decision to stop all vehicular traffic completely eliminated that threat.
We closed the roads down so everyone walked to the polling center.
If we could just get one person to come out to vote, it would have been a victory.
Then, just before the polls are about to open,
We were starting to take rockets and mortars at all our polling sites, coinciding exactly with the announced time that they would be open.
We got shelled, mortared 31 times that day.
Despite those attacks, Iraqis were walking to vote in the midst of a mortar and rocket attacks.
We would pass columns of civilians walking, smiling, laughing, joking, ecstatic that they got to vote for the first time.
Then started coming in the reports from the company commanders, basically saying, "Sir, we're taking mortar fire, and we've got about 2,000 people standing in line to vote, and we can't get them to leave. What do we do?" And I said, "Let them vote."
on this momentous day, apparently nothing will keep the voters from coming.
You could really see the excitement in the Iraqi civilians as they held up that finger with the indelible ink mark showing that they had voted. It was a phenomenal day.
There was a young Iraqi man that was pushing an elderly Iraqi man in a shopping cart because you couldn't use your vehicles that day. They were restricted by the Iraqi government. And when the Marines asked him, why are you coming up here under mortar fire? His response to them in broken English was that thanks to them, his father's only wish was that he would vote one time in his life as a free man.
Every Iraqi house we went by is having a feast, like the 4th of July celebration.
They were hugging each other, they were kissing each other.
All the violence and terrorist tactics, Iraq's first free elections are finally realized.
We said, our victory is, if one person votes, we won. We beat the insurgency. But when over 16,000 showed up and they were standing in line for hours amongst mortars and amongst the threat of suicide attacks, there was nothing that could describe that.
It was over 70%. It was a huge turnout.
I really felt in my heart that I was witnessing history take place.